Salutations and hello and welcome to everyone who is joining me here today on the Wednesday for the Wednesday's Dreadlocks Q&A. I do questions on a Wednesday, I do Dreadlocks informationals on a Saturday, and my blogs on a Monday. Today you're joining me for Dreadlocks Q&A part 11. I answer 5 questions each time that have been posted by you guys in the comment section. Dougie asks, question: how do you get blunted tips to lock up? They keep falling apart. I'm going to be assuming that you are trying to crochet the tips of your dreads so that they aren't wispy and loose, they are in fact rounded. If they're falling apart, I'm going to be assuming that the dreads are not actually that old yet. Some people can get the tips to be crocheted blunted when the dreads are young, but what I would really recommend is waiting till the dreads have matured and then they've all tightened up and shrunk, and then it'll give you something good and solid to crochet the loose tip hair into. If the dreads are still loose and young near the tips, as you're crocheting it in, it's not going to be strong enough to really hold it, and then when you wash they are going to come loose again. The crochet hook may give the dreadlocks the appearance of being matured, but you do actually have to wait until they are really shrunk up and tight properly and not just crocheted tight before they're going to be solid enough to really hold the blunted tip. SketchGTX. Question: my dreads are 10 to 11 months old and very loopy. I don't mind the loops, but some dreads seem I have sections in the middle, halfway down, where the dread doesn't seem to be dreaded, but has dreaded hair below and above. Will my dreads sort themselves out over time? Thanks, SketchGTX. What I'm assuming you're saying is that you have a dreadlock where it's dreaded here, but not dreaded in the middle. I've had a few questions with people worrying about the exact same problem, and because it takes a while for me to get around to answering these questions, because I can only answer 5 at a time, 5 a week. By the time I've come around to answer their questions, the people that have asked before have all come around and said that problem has sorted itself out already by the time I've even answered the question. So I would not worry too much about that, because I've not seen anyone that's had that problem, last indefinitely. The dreads will sort of catch up in the middle. Some things that can make that problem worse is if you tie your hair up a lot. So when you tie it back, sometimes you can get that spot where it's not fully dreaded is actually the point where they're bound when you tie them up. So if you have a headband there or tie them up with another dread, it can often get that loose part in the dread where it's actually being tied back. So that might be something you would possibly want to think about, but otherwise I would not worry too much about that. Just treat them gently until they do start to catch up, because the straight bits of loose hair aren't going to be quite as tough as the ropey bits of dreadlock. Scruffydreadedlad. Question: my dreads have tightened towards the base, but the rest of the length is just fluffy. Suggestions? That is exactly what you want. If they're tightened towards the base, then you're golden. The root can often be the slowest part to lock, but as long as you've got a good tight bit at the root, the rest of the loose hair here, that's still going to be blowing around and getting pushed around in daily life, and that will lock up. If it's completely loose, then you can twist and rip it or backcomb it some more. But by the way you've just said loose and fluffy, I'm picturing that they are probably just, messy young dreads, and they're going to take months of patience to really start to lock and tighten up by themselves, and you just need to be patient with them and trust that they know what they're doing. As long as it's good and solid in the root, the rest will follow. I mean, if it's good and solid at any part, for other people with young dreads, when you put in the dreads initially, so you section the hair, or don't section the hair, you take a clump of hair and you backcomb it or twist and rip it, you are not creating the dreadlock. You are just getting that hair, holding it together with some twist and rip knots or some backcomb knots, and that is just going to hold those hairs together so that they will then lock up and become a dreadlock. It's the time that turns them into a dread. So it doesn't matter if your backcomb knots or your twist and rip knots come loose, as long as it doesn't all come apart completely, then there's nothing to worry about. It can come loose, it's just got to hold those hairs together, group them up so that over time they will lock up. Don't worry when your twist and rip or your backcomb gets a bit loose and fluffy, because that is not the dreadlock, that is just, the group of hairs that will eventually form the dreadlock. Kamizo, 27, question: hi, I watched all of your videos, so this wouldn't be a repeat. My dreads are super young, only 17 days or so. I always thought my hair was a bit thick, but now that I have dreads, they are kind of sparse, which leads to my problem/question. I can see my section lines. Do dreadlocks eventually get thicker, leading to hiding the lines and or add volume? I've done some research on this and I haven't found any real answer to it. Thanks, Karin. Okay, when you start dreadlocks with your backcombing or your twist and rip, I don't think you said exactly what, but basically when you start them, it's going to be quite tight in the root because you start at the root with your backcomb or your twist and rip and you work outwards. If you've brought a crochet hook into the mix, it's going to be even tighter at the root, but basically it means it's going to be pulling all the hairs in that section into the dread, and so the section lines are going to be clearly visible like when you part your hair. As the dreads get older, you'll find that they're not actually dreaded all the way to the root. My dreadlocks are not locked all the way to the root. There's between ½ an inch and an inch on some, maybe a little bit less than an inch, where it's just loose, normal hair. And then what happens then, that loose, normal hair lays over the section lines of that one, and that one lays over that one. The only way you'd be able to see the section lines on my head would be if you took two dreads and pulled them apart and you were directly above me, and it's only like parting your hair. The section lines will relax up because, you know, it gets a bit loose and messy around the roots unless you're really tightly crocheting all the loose hairs in there, which I don't recommend anyway. But dreadlock roots aren't actually sort of supposed to be tight enough where you can see the section lines. So I think you'll find that as you start washing the dreads and they start to get messy, you'll no longer see the lines, and then you probably won't see them again unless you actually pull dreads aside to have a look at your scalp. Nothing to worry about there. Namaste! Hi, I asked this question on an older vid of yours. Sorry if I'm annoying. No, you're not annoying. I only have one dread my friend put in 2 months ago. Of course, it's surrounded by my loose hair. It's been difficult keeping my loose, normal hair from growing into it. What do you suggest I do to keep my dread from taking over my whole head? Thanks. This is actually something that is rather difficult to do. Well, it's rather difficult to do at the beginning because, well, I'll get into it. When your dreadlock is young, so your dreadlock is only 2 months old, so it's still sort of young and soft. It's just that, it's young and it's soft, and so loose hair will still stick to it. When the dreadlock is older, it gets more tough and ropey, and then stuff won't really stick to it as easily. So you just have to keep separating it while they're young. But obviously you can wake up after sleeping on it and find that your loose hair started to come clumped and matted into it, which is a problem. The only thing I can really suggest, and that's because I know this is quite a difficult job to do, is to keep brushing and conditioning as best you can your normal hair. You want to make that normal hair as un-dreadlock friendly as possible, so that it's less likely to knot. Condition your normal hair as best you can without getting conditioner on your young baby dreadlock, and brush it, and try and keep all the hair that you don't want locked into your baby dread brushed and smooth and nice. Something that is good is, you know, spraying conditioner that you don't put in the shower, like stuff in a bottle or in a spray, and you can put that on all the loose hairs around and brush it. It's a little bit easier to apply to the loose hair than soaking your hair in the shower. But I appreciate this is going to be a very difficult job, and you're just going to have to keep at it. You can try dread wraps until it's locked up a bit more. You don't want a really tight one, but it's where you get, sometimes you get a whole cloth thing, but I would maybe just try it with string at first. You just get some string and loosely wrap it around the dreadlock, and that will help it separate it away from the normal hair. You're going to want to use thick string, and string that's not going to like disintegrate. Thick so you'll be able to pull it back out again. But that can help create a little bit of a barrier between your dread and the loose hair. But you're still going to have to watch the roots because it's hard to keep it up to the roots, because you don't want to make the string so tight that it's going to sort of suffocate and strangle the dread so it can't mature. But that also means it's going to fall away from near the root. It's going to be an ongoing task for you. It's going to get a bit tedious, but when the dread is older, it's going to be less sticky with the normal hair. Thank you all for watching. That was Q&A 11 and one extra. If you guys out there have any dreadlock questions, or not even dreadlock questions, I will answer any questions that you would like to ask me about myself, or dreadlocks, or, you know, anything that I can answer. You can leave them in the comment section to this video and write question at the start. Please remember to write question, otherwise I will just type away an answer and not put it in the queue for the Q&As. You can find all the other Q&As on YouTube. You can find them listed out on lazydreads.com. As always, plenty more information on lazydreads.com. You can find me on Twitter at lazy_dreads. You can find the new Facebook page at facebook.com/lazydreads. lazydreads.com. Thank you for watching. Farewell.